Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Cache, and you are watching Shay with the Hobbies. It has been a while. Your girl had internet issues for majority of April, but we are back with a brand new internet service. So, hoping to see that this works out in my favor for sure. But if you don't know, right now we are in season the second season or the second quarter is the word I want to use. The second quarter of the year, quarter of the classics, and that means me and my lovely co-host Nicole are doing the Edgar Allan Poe read along, where we are reading the complete works and tales poetry of Edgar Allan Poe, and this is the very last week of our poetry reading. We've been celebrating National Poetry Month through reading these poems. And so this week we had some of the more well known poems of Edgar Allan Poe that most people have like either heard of or read in school at some point in time. So before we get to dive into that and our thoughts for this week, I will let my lovely co host introduce herself.
Hello. My name is Nicole. My channel name is Who Picked This Book. You can see me over there talking about romance, cozy mysteries, really everything. I don't really have a genre that I don't read. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Who Picked This Book? You can find me pretty much anywhere with that name.
Awesome. And y'all know me. I'm Cache, channel Share with the Hobbies. I be reading, I be writing, I be creating. That's something that you think you could be interested in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. But also remember, your girl is Black with a big B. So think about that before you hit that button. Okay. So with that, I just, gotta warn people. It is the disclaimer for me. I just don't want you to be like, oh my God, I didn't expect this kind of content. You didn't? For me? Are you sure? Are you sure? Did you hear my intro?
Did you
Like,
hear?
I don't even ask if you watched the full video. Did you hear my intro? Okay. All right. That's all I want to know. But yeah, so this week we start with getting y'all see I got this big old book consistently in my hands.
I feel like we've read a lot, but look at how far we've only come.
Right. We start with the Raven and then we end with scenes from Politician. I'm not gonna lie, I did not read that one. I started listening to the audio, but I was like, this is in play format, and your girl is just not necessarily in the mood to read a play right now. Like that's just the truth of it. But I am going to read it and finish it because I do want to read everything. So overall, what did y'all didn't hear that? That was my Bluetooth speaker that I just like knocked off the desk. Hi, Alicia. It's so good to see you. Alicia sent me the link to the scenes from the Politician to listen to, so that was super duper dope for her. So what was your favorite poem from this week? Okay, so I had a few that I really liked, and specifically like lines that I really loved. Like there were some that I like highlighted or like I put notes by. Okay, so one that I thought was dope AF was the bells. The bells was like I just knew. I was like, this is too pretty. He's about to mess this up. He about to make it really dark. This is really too beautiful. It's too beautiful. He about to be like, no. Let me turn these beautiful bells into shrieks. And I was like, yo, take me there, Edgar. Take me there, Edgar.
I really like the bells too. I counted. He said bells, the word bells, 62 times in that poem. 60.
You would count it. You would count it. Or you would count it. Okay. So first of all, deep in earth for 2 lines was like everything. I was like, okay, succinct, okay, brevity, okay. I see it. I loved it. I loved it.
And it still just kills you. It's just so powerful.
It is. I will say that like I read The Raven with like brand new eyes. because it definitely felt different reading it like now than before. But the
Yes.
other ones that like had lines that like stuck out to me were to Miss Louise Olivia Hunter
Mm-hmm.
and to MLS.
Yes.
Because like to MLS, the part that I like put something by, it was like by him who, as he pins them, thrills to think his spirit is communing with an angel's. I was like, I mean, okay, I mean, do that then.
Yeah.
Literally, I put do that in the like corner. Like I was like, I like this. I like this. I like this. And
Yeah.
then in the to Miss Louise Olivia Hunter, the second stanza, thus the bright snake coiling neath the forest tree, when's the bird beguiling to come down and see. Like that bird, the lover round his fate will hover till the blow is over and he sinks like me. And I thought it was so interesting, like because of the duality of the poem.
Mhm.
Because again, if he gonna give you something lovely, he gonna give you something terrifying. Like he's going to give you that opposition.
Yeah.
And so when I was like, okay, also I just be like, are these all different women, or are you just throwing out different names? Because I'm just really curious if you was just macking down all these hoes. Because like everybody got a poem, yo, and I just want to be like, everybody ain't got a poem for me. Is all I'm saying. Everybody don't get poems. Like you got to be doing something special to get a poem, and I just be wondering, like, do you feel special that he wrote you a poem? Because like I mean, I feel like you do because they're dope, but then at
Mhm.
the same time,
Honestly, I
everybody
feel
got
like
a poem. Like
everybody
there's so many different women through these. What's 16 times 4? 64.
60. Yeah, 60. Hold on, I wrote it down. 64. Yes.
Okay, okay. I was like, wait, did I get that right? Okay. 64. In these 64 poems, I guarantee you there's at least 12 females. At least 12.
You
You
know
weren't
what?
alive that long, sir. You were not alive that long. I'm just saying. All I'm saying is I think I'm not slut shaming. I'm just saying. I think Eddie P got down and through there, is all I'm saying. I think
You
Eddie
know
P.
what? It's probably because, with his poetry, he's like super mysterious. Women are just like drawn to that. They kind of want to like peel the
Yeah,
layer.
that man was depressed. He seemed like he was like dark.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was going through a lot. And I just was like, I mean, maybe it's because it's the 1800s, everybody a little hard up for some and they just need some. I don't know. I just got a lot of questions. I got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Because again,
Honestly,
like most people didn't read these poems at the time. So it's
right.
not like y'all were like reading his and like, ooh, let me throw this cat at you. That wasn't like what was happening. So I'm
Mhm.
just, but I mean, maybe they were. Maybe he was just sitting there drinking and they were like, come here, girl. I don't know.
Probably
I, I
100%. Yes. Because some of these poems are just like,
some
women
of
are
these
like, okay.
lines, they don't sound like they just talking about your face, is all I'm saying. It sounds like
Right.
he did enjoyed a few people, and I just feel like we led to believe you was devoted to your wife, and I'm just curious. I'm curious, I'm curious, I'm curious. Okay, curious.
Yeah. Very, very.
Hi, RM Twin. Hey. I'm sorry. I'm getting to the comments. My bad. I didn't say hello. Hello, Twin. Also, I like your avatar. Hi, Miss D. I'm in your chat. I got you up down here. I know you sprinting and stuff. I got you down here. Alicia says, I have a few. The Bells was one of my favorites, but I didn't know if you guys noticed in this week's reading that a lot of the poems had to deal with weddings and some sort of manner, which is interesting because one of our questions is, were there any common themes that you noticed? That's so cool.
Politian.
Yeah, right, right. I really like the standout poem about the mother to my mother. Yes, I thought that was a nice poem too.
Yes.
I feel like I underlined something over there. I also thought for Annie was dope, but I mean, of course. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the sonnet to my mother.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was a really good one too.
Yeah, I love.
Yeah, you're welcome. Also, I meant to tell you, I did get the package. Okay, here's what happened. I got the package, and then we had tornado, and so like it was just a lot of stuff going on. So yeah.
And so
I was like all out of it all weekend. So I got it, and I'm gonna like shoot an unboxing and whatnot. So yeah, but I just did it. For Helen too. Which one was for Helen? Let me see.
yeah, there was a. It was actually a pretty long one. But
Okay, I think yeah. No, that's too far back. Hold on.
on page 82,
Okay. Let me see.
our pages are the same.
Right. Oh yes. Yes. I remember this. Okay, so it wasn't this one, but one of these I like had to grab a dictionary.
Yes.
I was like, what are all these words? And I just don't even I feel it was it this one? Um
Is it Lulu?
It looks like the ballad one, but then
Ulaloom, yeah. For that one, I was just like, I don't know what any of these words mean.
I don't know what any of these words are. And it's intriguing to me just how much English has changed.
Yes.
Like so much so. Because like the way he uses these words are if they're like commonplace. Like they don't at all seem as if like he's trying to talk like he's trying to sound elevated in the type of person that he is, right? Like that's not what I get from these words.
Right. Like he's not there with the thesaurus trying to make him see.
Right. Like he's not, okay, what's the biggest word I can use? How many syllables can I throw at him? So yeah, I definitely did that. So you said you like the bells too. Which one? That question. What were your other favorites this week? There we go.
Of course, the Raven always has a special place in my heart. I love
That's the one you memorized, right?
Yeah, I love the Raven so much. There's just one line in here. I mean, it's a pretty extensive poem. It's not the longest, but it is pretty extensive. It has a number of different stanzas. But the one quote or the one line I would say that I really love from the Raven is towards the end. It's the second to the last stanza, and talking to the Raven, and he's saying, "Take thy beak from out my heart and take thy form from off my door." Like that just is so like that. It just hits me. Like take your beak out of my heart. Like you just stab me in the heart. I'm trying to do something here, and you're saying it's impossible, and I'm just going to be alone forever now. Like the Raven is just fantastic. You know, like I really think everybody read the Raven in high school, you know, or like had some kind of required reading. You know, it was either the Raven or Annabelle Lee. It was either one of those, right? So I really, and it's just like so spooky, but also very sad. Because obviously the Raven, he's talking about how he's lost someone, Lenore, and it's a little bit more sinister. He's actually he's reading on to, he cannot be in this world without him. He's reading these books, quaint and curious volumes of forgotten lore. He's trying to bring her back to life. So when he hears knocking on his door, he thinks it's her. So he's like calling for her, and she's not there. I think that is so spooky. And I was like, she might be a ghost.
So here's the thing. I'm really glad I'm doing this with you. Cause like by the time I got to the end, I was like, does he not realize he's dead too? Is that what this is? Is he dead too in this room and he's stuck in there thinking that he's like creating? Because that's what like I got. And like we were like, no, he's like trying to bring her back to life. And I'm like, yo, I went right over my head. Here's why we're reading this, because had not a clue. I read it and I legit was like, at the end, I was like, yo, yeah, okay, rewind. Is he not alive and he's just stuck in this room? And that's where I was. So I'm intrigued.
I mean, it could be because he's like at that last stanza, it says that Raven is still is sitting there. Like, so he and this Raven are stuck in this room, and You know, it could be
Right. No,
just
when he said the come out of the shadow part was when I was like, huh. And my soul, because he says, and the lamplight over him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. And that's when I was like, because you can't leave. Like
right.
you're there. And so yeah, oh my gosh. So now I'm like even more curious.
Like you're stuck in this room, or it could be like
Right.
where he's stuck in his depression, like his soul is not lifting because she's dead and he's there alone.
Right.
And
It's definitely be figuratively too. I was thinking like when I read it, I was like, this gives me what's that movie? I See Dead People. Like
yeah,
it's giving me that
mhm,
vibes. Like you think he's alive and he's wishing for his dead
uh-huh,
love, and it's like, but like they're both dead. Yeah.
yeah,
The
mm-hmm,
Raven and the Annabelle poem were the two that I was required to read. So I
mm-hmm.
knew of both of them because of movies, but I don't like have ever any memory of reading them. I only have memories of reading his short stories in high school.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, we mostly that it was the Raven, Annabelle Lee, and then it was the Telltale Heart, and one more. One more. I know it was one more.
So we read The Pit and the Pendulum, The Mask of the Red Death, The Black Cat,
I think it was
um,
the Black Cat.
um, Telltale Heart, and there's like a couple more I can't think of, but they're like because we read them, but then there were always also movies that we watched like as a class. You know when they roll out that TV
Yes.
with the VCR, and you just know you're gonna have a good slash boring movie time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So which poem was the hardest to understand? For me, it was the Eulalia, that one.
Uh-huh.
Eulalia, that one. There were just so many words that I didn't know, or like in the way that the sentence was structured, I didn't necessarily understand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is that the only one? I feel like I'm looking at this one, but it's like no, okay, maybe it's the rest of them.
And there was like a lot of like capitalized words that made me
Right,
think
like
like
things that, yeah, that seem to have some importance.
yeah. So I was just like, what is this?
No, I completely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the hardest one for me. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, let's see. Oh, we got a comment. I remember doing like 6 months on the Mask of the Red Death in high school. Yeah, like I feel like we took like a month or 2 months for like each story. It was like a semester long of
Mm-hmm.
like going through his and him and like other like classical short story authors. And that's where I kind of like got the like desire that when I wrote short stories for there to be like a like lesson or like a moral, because like
Mm-hmm.
in most of them like you could always find one, like even if it wasn't something like explicitly stated, right? Like it was like when you read the story you were like, oh okay, this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that Ulami was really hard, and then I actually like I did read scenes from the Politician.
mm,
Um, I mean I was just like, what is? I mean maybe it's because it's not completed, but I'm like, what is going on? Like I know somebody's
yeah,
engaged to their cousin, and I'm like, what?
somebody's engaged to their cousin.
Yes,
Oh, is it autobiographical? Is that what that is? Is it like he trying to tell his story on the low? I
right.
got questions because
It was actually based on a real life event that happened. It was called the Kentucky Tragedy. Um, I had to look up like analysis for this thing. I was like, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to
right.
tell me? So from scenes from Politician, it's unfinished, obviously. It's not completed. Um, even though he did start this kind of earlier in his career, he started writing this in 1835. So it's like he
Okay.
just never went back to it. He didn't really like I read, like he wasn't really proud of it. He was like, this is kind of like not like for me. Like I'm gonna not do dramas and I'm just gonna stick to short stories, kind of thing.
Okay.
It was actually published kind of against his will. They just wanted more to fill the pages of the book, so he was kind of like, okay, here, have this.
Got you.
But it was actually like a fictionalized version of what they call the Kentucky tragedy, and it was the murder of a person, Solomon P. Sharp, by Jeroboam. I think that's how you say his name. But anyway, this woman, Ann Cook, gave birth to Solomon's child, but she married the other guy. And then she asked the other guy to kill Solomon, and he did. And he ended up hanging for it. They actually executed him. And she tried to commit suicide by overdosing on laudanum on the eve of her husband's execution. I'm just like, wow.
Wow. Well,
And
in today's thing, she would have got charged with conspiracy, right? Like she would have got charged with something.
yeah, she really would have.
Right.
So after reading about that, and then it did kind of make more sense, when I was reading, because that's exactly what happens in Scenes from a Politician. It's just the guy gets engaged to his cousin, and the guy's father's ward gets jealous and tells the politician to murder the guy who, I was like, wow, what is going on?
Oh, wow. That's a lot. I mean, can we just say they was doing a lot in the 1800s? Like they was doing an awful lot. They talk about us. Like, wait a minute now.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
But and what other one? Oh yeah, okay. That's basically those were the two hardest ones for me.
Yeah, my brain told me The Politician was not gonna be something I could comprehend in the time I was trying to read it and get through it. I was like, this is gonna take some more time because first of all, I'm not as good at reading and interpreting plays on like the first read as like I've seen other people. Like short stories, poetry, sure, but plays, like I have to do like a lot of like because all the things that are there are important, like the stage direction, everything, like it all points to how the scene is supposed to look. So I've always just found reading scripts harder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
That's like some Dateline type stuff. No lie, like that's kind of crazy. Like seriously. Okay, so were there any common themes that you noticed? I just think like the number one thing that I think is like central to this week, but like all 4 weeks of reading the poetry is the like duality of the light and the dark, like the good and the bad, the pretty and the ugly, the beautiful and the terrifying. Like there's a line in The Raven where he says, thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. Like, I'm just saying, twin, if you want to use that line in like one of your books, because
that's honestly like, how it feels reading his stuff. Like it's fantastic, terrifying. And
when I read it, I was like, I don't know if you talking about scary stuff or sexy stuff, or I don't like this is something else. It filled me with fantastic terrors. Like I just thought that was such a great line, like such a great line. Like that like it's part of why the phenomenon of reading horror or watching horror exists, because something about that thrill, something about that fear is exciting. It feels good, right? That like just a teensy bit of danger, just that woo, this escalated quickly. Like those, I love it. And that I had to highlight that line. I was like, that's a good line.
Yeah,
that's a good line.
I definitely like a few of these poems in the last 16, they were written either after his wife's death or very close to his own death, and so you can definitely see the darker turn for sure. So
and it's never like these poems, I felt like weren't gradual like the others. These were like light, dark, like like it changed fast. Like 1 minute the bells were chiming and it was beautiful, and the next they were shrinking and you were like in fear. And
Mhm.
so I just thought like it was just a very, very stark like contrast this
Yeah.
week for sure.
Yeah, the change and the shift in the tension of each poem was very drastic. It was like from one stanza to the next. Like it didn't,
Right.
you know, it didn't like have this subtle build like we've seen in previous, for sure.
Exactly, exactly. Like
Mhm.
there was like subtlety was not a thing. Subtlety was not a thing that he had this time. He was like, I'm gonna go for broke, and I'm not gonna lie, I was here for it. I was
Yeah.
definitely here for it. I was like, okay, I rock with his poetry pen. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna lie. Like over these 4 weeks, I feel like I've definitely gotten a more well-rounded picture of him as a writer. And again, I'll say, I stick by classics should be electives and not like the mandatory, the baseline. But I
Mhm.
definitely see why he's considered one of the greats.
Yeah.
Like, there's no part of me that feels like this is just a white man writing, right? And not to say that there aren't like, minority people that were writing at this time and just we haven't got to read their work. But for what was out there, like this man was masterful.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
he just really, really was. He was really good with his pen. And I just like I can't not acknowledge that, especially going through these last 64 poems. Like
Mhm.
he put
Yep.
in work.
He did.
And then he draws you in, like he paints pictures with very few words. Like that 2-line
Yeah.
poem,
Mhm. Deep in earth. Yeah. That
it
was
was
just,
it was so good.
it's like, how are you going to just, first of all, draw me in, keep me there, have me fully know what you're talking about? Like, even though it's 2 lines, I know completely where he's at. It's just like,
Right.
and like, it's also very like sinister and sad. It's like,
It is
how do
sad.
you do that with 2 lines?
Right.
He does. Deep in earth, my love is lying, and I must weep alone. You go
So
through
much
all,
sadness and despair. Like, oh,
you know, like how, like 2 lines? How are you doing this to me in two
yeah,
lines? I don't
right.
understand it. For sure. Oh, but yeah, you could definitely tell like these last 16 were kind of where he was at mentally. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm. For sure.
Yeah, you can't miss it. He makes it very much so. Like, yeah, no, that's that. No, I was going through some stuff. It was a dark, dark time.
Right. Like this is where we're at now. Yep. Hmm.
Aaron, hey, it's so good to see you. Aaron,
Hi.
was it last night? Yes, because it was Monday. Yes, had a live last night, and they were talking about a book, and I hadn't read it, but I was there in the chat, and I hit that like button. So there's that. Okay, so do we have any final thoughts or anything about this week? I feel like these were like this was an easier reading week than last week.
Yeah.
Last week's poems were definitely the hardest week of reading the
Yeah.
poems that we've had. This week was definitely like this week felt like it was just more on par with the first two. The third one just felt like an anomaly. Like it was just like so full of ones that it was like doo, 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 doo,
Yeah. Well,
doo.
there was like this like deeper meaning to everything. There was a couple in here
Everything.
that were kind of like we have more riddles in this week's, poetry. You're welcome. So we have more riddles, like a couple of poems here. They were riddles, which I always think are fun.
Right. I figured
Um,
the Enigma one was. And then there was one where he like almost out loud lets you know that it's a riddle. The
yeah.
Valentine one, the
Yep.
Valentine one, yeah.
He
So
was
I was
almost
wondering if the
taunting
words
you.
were "I love you" because he said 3 words, and I was wondering if it was "I love you," but I wasn't sure.
He was almost taunting you with the Valentine. He was
With
just
the
like,
Valentine one, he was
"This
like,
is a
It's a
riddle.
riddle, but I'm not gonna tell you what it
Don't
is."
think about it too hard. You're not going to be able to get it."
Right. I'm like,
but,
okay, man, whatever.
but some people got it because I had to look it up because um but it's just like, yeah, he was like taunting the readers, like saying like, this riddle is not like my other riddles, like this one's actually hard. I'm like, oh, okay, because your first one was cake.
Right.
Jeez. So, and it's actually what's fun about this one is for a Valentine. The original title was "To Her Whose Name is Written Below." So her
Okay.
name is written in the poem, but it's not the first letter of each line like it was with the previous one. So how you do it is line 1, you look for the first letter. Line 2, second letter. Line 3, third letter. And you go down, 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 and down the whole poem until it spells out a name, which is Francis Sargent Osgood. Francis.
Is that your writer?
Yeah, that poet who they were like trading love letters
Chat
back.
letters? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so I thought it was pretty interesting how and I want to know, like, I was trying to look and see like who changed, because sometimes like he changed the title of the poem, but then sometimes other people did, like when they published it after his death, like some people changed the title of his poems, but it doesn't say. It just said the original title, "To Her Whose Name is Written Below," and they changed it to a Valentine. So I was like, I want to know who changed it.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Alicia said I flew through them this week. I believe it. Yeah, this week, well, they weren't nearly as hard to read this week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so, and I love the ones that like they just have like initials, but then if you look into it, like to MLS, it's actually for Marie Louise Shue, who is actually his wife's nurse, who when she was sick, she was taking care of her, and so he wrote to MLS after his wife died. So he wrote this in March of 1847, and Virginia died in January of 1847. So, and it was kind of like he was like thanking her for like taking care of her and making it like her passing almost kind of like easy, maybe like she really like helped him as well. Because she also became like his nurse, because he wasn't that great in condition either after that.
Right.
And then where it says to blank, 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 it's actually to Marie Louise again. So, and this one was kind of a little bit more sad, as the other poem was for like gratitude to Marie Louise. This one is just like, my wife is dead, so I can literally do nothing. There's a line in here where he was just like, he used to be really, it was a point of pride where he can like spin a sonnet and write a poem, and it was just super easy for him, And then now it says, and now, as if in mockery of that boast, it's saying like, my spells are broken, my pen falls powerless from my shivering hand. I cannot write, I cannot speak or think. Alas, I cannot feel. And it's after his wife's death, he can't even function, because he loved her so much. And now that she's gone, there's really nothing left. So it's like you have one poem to her, like, thank you so much for taking care of her. And then this one to her, it's like, I'm devastated. I cannot go on anymore. It's very sad. Very sad.
And then you're like, he was like so young, even in that. Like all of this, everybody's young. Everybody young. Now, do I think that you messing with your cousin probably got something to do with why y'all just probably wasn't in the best of health? Maybe. I don't think y'all was probably making the best health anatomical decisions, I feel like y'all didn't. So, but it's still sad nonetheless.
It's sad. I mean, it's creepy because, like, we know that she was his cousin. She was also 13 when they got married. I mean, at her time of death, they were married for, like, 12 years or something like that. So obviously she aged. But it's like, she died super young. And he died super young.
Right.
Like, he died when he was 40.
Right.
Like, I'm 33. So I'm just
right. Like 40 ain't that far off. It's not like it's right there.
Exactly. So I'm like, yeah. So that one, like that poem, like to blank, 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 that line And it's just because we have read all these previous poems, like he would say, like, in a mad pride of intellectuality maintained the power of words. Like, he did that. He was a master of words. He could create these amazing poems and short stories. He made a career out of it. He was critically acclaimed at this point, in his life.
Mhm.
And he's in this line, and now, as if in mockery of that boast, like, I can't do anything. Like that, I was just like, holy, like, I had to take a second. I was like, holy.
It's funny that you say this, Alicia, because the cousin thing bothers me more than the age, because it was normal to like be married at like 13 and 14 back then. Like my grandmother got pregnant with my mom at 13.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was my thought. Like I was like, as much as the age, like it sucks, and it's like that was definitely more common in the 1800s than
Yeah.
like, but like the cousin thing, I just feel like, but that's like that's your mama's brother's daughter.
Right.
Like that's not like your great uncle's daughter,
It's not
right?
like
Like
some
no,
kind of removed, right?
right. It's not farther off. Like y'all literally have the same grandparents.
Right. Right.
Like that's too much for me.
Yeah.
That's too much for me. Because
Like,
in most situations that I've seen, it has been like further off. It's still too close that's ever comfortable for me. But it
right.
ain't been like y'all parents grew up in the same house type that stuff. Like, wait a minute.
Right. Like first cousins. And yeah, like with the age, like literally as soon as a girl like started her period,
Right.
we're trying to marry her off. Like, oh, you're ready. All right, here you go.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, this means you can have kids. Like, wait a
and
minute.
they were literally all the time some like 40, 50-year-old man.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, it takes them 40, 50 years to be able to take care of a household.
Yep.
Right? Like, make it make sense. Make it make sense. They can be the mother of a household at 13, but he got to be 40. Like, y'all, the math ain't mathing.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so what about Enigma? What was the riddle for that one?
I
Okay,
did
so was the riddle for Valentine just who it was for, or was
Yeah,
it like
it was her name. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Frances Sargent Osgood. And Enigma, it's the same kind of structure. So the first line, you're looking at the first letter, second line, looking at the second letter, third line, and then so on and so forth. That spells out Sarah Anna Lewis, which I had to look her up. She was another poet in around the same time. And okay, so Edgar Allan Poe met Sarah and her husband in 1845. So,
2 years before his wife died?
Yes. And they paid Edgar Allan Poe to edit her work because she was a poet, and he kind of like puffed up her pieces a little bit because she wasn't really good. So they ended up paying him money to kind of help her out a little bit in the poetry department. And when they first met, he found her kind of annoying. But when his wife got sick, and then when she eventually died, like she was really kind to him, and they really helped him out in a lot of ways. So that's why like he wrote like a poem to her. And I think
I like unlikely friendships. I
yeah,
definitely had those like people that I'm like, I don't feel like we're gonna vibe, and then they turn out to be like really good people to have in your life. Like I like those. Like you need surprises like that in your life.
And it was originally titled Sonnet, but it was changed after his death by a man named Rufus Wilmot Griswold. And these two were bitter rivals. They hated each other.
Wow. So how you get to change the name of your rival's poem? Where they do that at?
Well, what had happened was
Okay, give it to me. What had happened was
so he was an editor who had published like an anthology of poems, as Poets and Poetry of America in 1842. And it had 3 poems of Poe's work in there. And Edgar Allan Poe was like, okay, fine. Clout. Yeah, get it out there. Sure. But Griswold believed that Edgar Allan Poe, he thought too highly of himself. He needed to be taken down a couple pegs. That's what Griswold thought. And so after Poe resigned from Graham magazine, so that's where he was working, they actually hired Griswold and paid him a higher salary than Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, wow. I mean, have we read any of Griswold's work? Because I don't even know who that man is.
I don't even know.
I feel like Keke Palmer. I'm sorry to that man. I don't know that man. I don't know that man.
I've never seen that man in my life.
Griswold. Who ain't that Gus from the Recess? Ain't that his Gus Griswold? That's the only Griswold we know. What you mean? Right. What you mean? You better get off my man Eddie P. neck. I don't like that. I don't like Griswold. He doing too much. I don't like that.
It gets worse.
Oh, okay. This is worse than the man who lit his poem on fire while writing the poem, because that was scandalous. That was like, ooh.
That
the
was
girlies was doing it in the 1800s, honey.
It's like you literally burned my poem, and then as you were watching it burn, you were just so
you were like, I'm gonna write this poem and mail it to you. You gonna read this. You gonna know how much I thought this stuff. Okay, well, all right then. Okay.
Disrespectful.
I mean, now all the kids do is tag you in a Twitter thread. Back then, they was burning your stuff and sending you.
Sending you the ashes and this
the ashes. Like, here, feel this.
Okay. So next, Griswold offered Edgar Allan Poe $10 to review his anthology, this is another anthology that he no, it was the same. It was the same anthology. So he offered Poe $10 to review it, like a book blogger. But here's $10. And that's actually $378 in today's money. So
okay,
it's a lot. And so he accepts it. He actually says it's pretty favorable. He doesn't really say anything bad about it. But when Edgar Allan Poe goes around and he does lectures on poetry, he did this for a number of years. He actually stated that Griswold picked his friends' poetry, not necessarily good poetry. So that just kind of stirred it all.
Bad. I'm just saying all his friends is in the book. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they can't write. I'm just saying you see nobody he got beef with was in that mug. That's all I'm saying. Eddie P said don't at me. Eddie P said don't at me. And I'm like, okay. Okay.
And if it wasn't, and if the workplace rivalry wasn't enough, they both were attracted and had a platonic relationship with Frances S. Osgood.
Was it platonic? Because here's the thing. Eddie P was throwing down some major pins to Miss Frances. You can tell us it was. I hope you wasn't cheating on that 12-year-old. I hope you wasn't cheating on that little child.
So much.
Said you loved her so much. But I mean, I think, back then y'all definitions of love and our definitions of love wasn't necessarily the same. So
that's what I'm saying. I was like, I don't think it was platonic. I think something was going on. They just wanted to save face, maybe. And for those two to be both attracted to her and fighting for her affections. And I'm like, Edgar. So if that wasn't bad enough, there's more. There's more.
And then what happened?
This is after Poe's death. So after Poe died.
Okay, here's the thing. You leave the dead alone.
Exactly. That makes it work.
Grizzy baby, you was doing the most, Grizzy baby. Why are you so pressed on Eddie P? Eddie P had you pressed in his death. That man was down there with the worms, as he would say, and you were still pressed.
He was still coming after him after he he died. Like, this is literally the hold that Edgar Allan Poe had on poor Griswold. But so after his death, Griswold would publish a large amount of Edgar Allan Poe's work in a thing called a memoir of the author, which he wrote basically just about Edgar Allan Poe, which he defamed his reputation. He made false claims about his character and about his drug use. Hi, Miss Maya. And tarnished his reputation. So it's just like, wow. And he can't even defend himself because he's dead.
That's why they say you don't talk bad about the dead. That's what they say. You say you don't talk about the dead. Now, if it's the truth, it's not talking bad, okay? But if we lying on people, we making stuff up. I just feel like, Grizzy baby, you just had too much going on. And I feel like it's because you knew you couldn't measure up to Eddie P and his pen. Because, like, just write the words, right? Like, if you think you're better than him, prove it with what you write.
But that's the thing. He was an editor. He was not a poet. He put other people's works together and published it.
So he never wrote anything?
I don't think he ever wrote anything, because from what I was reading, it's just that he was an editor and he put other people's works together and published them.
Let's look it up. What's his name?
Rufus Wilmot Griswold.
No, so he was a poet.
Okay, because
but it says anthologist, editor, poet, and critic. So it seems like he mostly like talked about people's stuff. You know, those who can do, and those who can't talk shit. Okay, yep. That's what it sounds like.
I also read this one. I'm gonna put it in the chat as well. This one article about it has like letters that they had wrote back and forth to each other, and basically all about the rivalry. So I'm going to put that in the chat. Maybe if my computer won't work. There it goes. Long simmering feud between Edgar Allan Poe and Rufus Griswold.
Not he claimed to be Poe's chosen literary executor. Man, okay, so apparently it says Griswold was married 3 times. His first wife died young. His second marriage ended in a public and controversial divorce, and his third wife left him after the previous divorce was almost repealed. What is going on? What is going on?
Okay, so I put it in. I wonder if it'll come through. There it goes. Perfect. So that's the article that I read about that. Okay, perfect. Yep, that was it. I need to.
Okay, yeah. So his poetry was The Cypress Wreath, a book of consolation that came out in 1844, and then an illustrated book of Christian ballads.
Oh.
Interesting. The ones that don't know what the fuck they talking about be the main ones talking mess. That part. Hi, everyone. This stuff still happens. Editors who think they can write a better article, short story, poem, but exactly. Look, I'm not saying I always respect the dead. I hug grudges forever and never apologize. But yeah, this man was struck. Same. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm like, baby. That's why they say forgiveness is for you. Poe was dead. Eddie P wasn't on this earth, and you still mad.
Still mad.
It's giving. Let it go. Let it go. Like, I just don't understand. I don't get it. And y'all, I'm mad at whatever my voice is doing. This little raspy little thing it calls itself. I don't like this.
Drink. Clear your throat. But yeah, I think it was just like Griswold was like, he's dead. It's my time.
And like, I'm just like,
whole work about him just to be like, he was trash.
Like, you could have wrote an allegory about the man or something. Like, You just went out here and was like, I'm a lie, I'm a lie, I'm a lie, I'm a lie, I'm a lie. I'm okay. That's what you're gonna do. I mean,
Yep.
I just feel like do better. Today's lesson is don't be like Grizzy, okay? Mr. Rufus Griswold. Like, don't be like him. Because again, we didn't know this man. We had no idea who this man was. We over here talking about Eddie P, and he just happened to be a footnote in Eddie P's life. Like, think about that. Okay, don't be bitter, y'all. Forgiveness for you be a footnote in your enemy's life. They out here gone.
And they're only talking about you because they had to look up the analysis of a poem.
Right. That's the only reason we know who you are. Not you out here catfishing for an obituary signed Ludwig. You write an obituary for him with a fake name?
Yep.
Where they do that at? I'm just saying. All I'm saying is Grizzy was doing, stuff we be doing in 2022 well before. He was in the 1850s talking about, I'm about to act a fool. Like, don't be like Grizzy, y'all. Don't be like Grizzy. Let your enemies lay and rest.
I actually kind of want to look up that memoir that he put together for Edgar Allan Poe.
I do. Girl, the way that I stopped on that and was like, I don't want to. Griswold claimed that among the last requests of Mr. Poe was that he become the literary executor for the benefit of his family. Who? Ain't nobody alive. Everybody dead. Everybody been dying.
I want to see this in writing. It's like, oh, well, he told me, and they just believed him.
It says he claimed that Poe's aunt and mother-in-law said Poe. Now, first of all, let's stop there. His aunt and mother-in-law. Can we stop there? Why your aunt and mother-in-law the same person? Why?
Aunt / mother-in-law.
The way I was like looking for a second name and it wasn't, and then I realized why there wasn't a second name. Y'all, see how many times it get thrown in your face that they was first cousins? Like, bruh. So it says, Griswold that Poe's aunt and mother-in-law, Maria Clem, said Poe had made such a statement on June 9th, 1849, and that she herself released any claim to Poe's works. And indeed, a document exists in which Clem transfers power of attorney to Griswold, dated October 20th, 1849, although there are no signed witnesses. Clem, however, had no right to make such a decision. Poe's younger sister, Rosalie, was his closest next of kin. Although Griswold had acted as a literary agent for other American writers, it is unclear if Poe had really appointed Griswold his executor, perhaps as part of his imp of perverse. If it were a trick on Griswold's part or a mistake on Maria Clem's, it is also possible that Osgood persuaded Poe to name Griswold as his executor. That's what, again, y'all ain't telling me that Eddie P and Francis wasn't slapping cheeks.
Francis, I see her name too much for them to
I see it too much for it to be a coincidence. Talking about it's possible she persuaded him to give his enemy a chance. I know a hookup when I see it. Yeah. I know a situationship when I see one.
She was playing both fields.
Man, both of them. She said, I'm going to give you the nookie and you gone. I'm going to give him the book. Like, that's what I see. I get it. I know Grizzy is humiliated from beyond the grave. Humiliated, honey. Why was you doing all of this? To no avail? To no avail? It's sad. That part. Imagine your legacy is being a footnote in somebody else. Thank you, twin. Thank you. Right? Right? That has to hurt. That has to hurt. Yeah. You're literally a footnote in Eddie P's life.
Could you imagine on his tombstone it literally just says literary agent of Edgar Allan Poe, Rufus Griswold. On his own tombstone. Could you imagine?
On his own tombstone. That's what they coming to see Eddie. Ain't nobody coming to see you, Rufus. Ain't nobody coming to see you, Rufus. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. I'm not gonna lie. The like tea behind his poetry has been hilarious.
So
Like
funny.
you would not think you would get all this from Mr. Mask of the Red Death, everything black and terrifying Edgar Allan Poe. This man was slapping cheeks with Francis. He was getting poems burned by old dude. He getting this dude all riled up, dude, like Nana Nana Boo Boo. I took your job and they pay me more. Like it was a lot going on.
It was.
In like a short window of time. Like it was not a long like time with him writing.
Nope.
I'm just saying he was like, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Like at all. Like for real, for real.
Mm-hmm.
This part, live in a way that you don't end up somebody else's footnote. For real, for real.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be that. I do not want it to be 3033 and somebody is having a YouTube 27.5 about me in this way. Like, right. I want them to be talking about me like we talking about Grizzy. Learn from Grizzy. Learn from Grizzy. I'm just saying. Learn from Grizzy.
It's like
in a world full of Grizzies, be an Eddie P. Minus the child cousin marriage, alcohol, depression. We talk about his pen, right? Like the man. Pen.
Right.
Pen.
Right.
Pen.
It's like very in the future, year 3000. They're talking about R.M. Virtue's classic, and it's like Nicole Holmes is in the dedication or in the afterward. It's just like, oh, footnote.
Yeah, that's not a footnote. That's not a footnote. Hey, them dedications, look, the way I be paying attention to who stuff is dedicated to and who stuff be thankful, like inspiration is important. Inspiration is important. Even with like all the pen names I plan to have, like I plan to put like specific things in the like dedications to it's for. So when you find all the books, if you figure out it's all me, you'll be like, oh wow, I know how all these people are connected. Like your girl, I want somebody to do an analysis and be like, y'all just don't know. She has 7 pen names and nobody knew.
And nobody knew
if you go read this and this, you see who she said thank you to and this. That was an editor for this book 20 years before. It was. Thank you for peeping that.
We'll be solving your riddles.
Right. No, now that part. That I really want. The way I really want to like write, like that's why I'm excited to read House of Leaves. Like I want to write a book that makes you have to like do some work. Now, mind you, does that run its risk of people being like, I'm not gonna read this shit? Yes, but somebody's gonna read it and love it. I'm just saying, some of us don't want to work for our books, and that's fine. They supposed to, whatever you need them to be, they supposed to be that. So that's totally fine. But some people are like me and they like, okay, this is all right. I gotta turn the book upside down. Okay, I need a mirror. Wait, the mirror, and then I got it. I'm excited.
And you gotta read the book like this.
That part. I'm just saying, twin. I'm just saying. So, if we're going to wrap up, do we have more things, more notes?
Let me see.
Not the last one is our longest one ever.
I know. Well, that kind of just right. Okay. I did want to mention that in the poem for Annie, so that was actually dedicated to a woman named Nancy Locke Haywood, another woman. But I liked this poem too because it talked about the fever of living and how life is an illness and death is the cure, right?
Yeah, I was like, is this suicide? Because this sounds like suicide.
It could be because he was the height of his depression was when he was writing all this stuff. So, and it was saying that it was cured by Annie. Like Annie was there for him at a time where nobody else was, and then like she really, really helped him through, a really tough time. And her name was Nancy Locke Haywood, but Nancy changed her name to Annie after her husband died in 1873 in honor of Edgar Allan Poe. She legally changed her name to Annie.
Wait, when was she married to her husband?
She was married to her husband at the time she knew Edgar Allan Poe.
But did that stop her? monogamy wasn't a thing to these people, but I just feel like Kitty Cat was getting thrown to Eddie P and he wasn't turning it down. He was like, yes, make me feel better.
They were just like,
it was like he was like, yes, I'm depressed. Give me that kitty cat. Make me feel better, Annie. Tomorrow, I love you. Tomorrow. I'm just saying.
Especially because there's a line, there's a whole stanza in here. She tenderly kissed me, she fondly caressed, and then I fell gently to sleep on her breast.
I'm not saying he was using body pillows, but he was using body pillows is what I'm saying.
He was like, I'm just super sad.
My House of Leaves broke my brain. I'm excited. We are starting House of Leaves on Sunday. The live will go up for the Sunday slow read with Dejana. I got to finish American Gods this week. It'll happen. It'll happen. I think. Some things don't change. People like the brooding artist to this day. Man, except when that brooding artist is a female. And don't nobody like the moody, emo female artist. Like that is you gotta smile sometimes for them. This man doesn't sound like he ever smiled. Like he sounded like he was always depressed. And they were like, let me get this magical punani to you. You'll be happy. You'll be happy. Write some love poems for me, Edgar. I'm just saying.
Can I be the next answer in your riddle, please?
Right. Can I be your next riddle? I want to be. Let me be your enigma, Eddie. Eddie.
I love it.
I'm just saying. I feel like Edgar got down through there quite a few times. Is all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. One more thing. Annabelle Lee was his last completed poem.
Really?
Yep. Okay, I'm done. Sorry, that was long. Sorry.
I just spit out what I was drinking. My bad, Alicia. I'm sorry. It wasn't on purpose. My bad.
You know, that's what happened.
I had a great time reading
Me
these.
too.
I had a great time. I'm really excited to see what goes on for the short stories. Like, I'm really, really excited. Also, hi, Erica. I feel like I didn't officially say hi. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hello. Yeah, I'm really
excited because short stories, the first ones that we have are in the first week. I have not read any in the first one.
Oh, me neither. Nope.
All of them will be first time. So I'm super duper excited.
Mm-hmm.
One short story is only 3 pages long. Another one is 4.
Nice. Some of them are long. Like when we get towards the end, some of them are quite a bit long.
Right.
But it's all right.
Yeah, I'm looking now. It's week 3 before there's one that I've read before. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Fall of the House of Usher and the Black Cat.
Yep.
And The Fall of the House of Usher is 15 pages.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, Joe. We got any more things or notes or?
Nope, that was it. For me, and anybody in the comment section?
Right. Any more?
Like we read a whole lot, but it's actually only here.
Right. Yeah, no, it's not even close to a lot in the actual book. Right. Not even close. Not even close. Okay, so What else was I gonna say? Okay, so I can't think of anything else that we might have other than next week we'll be back on my channel, getting us back in line with how we originally were going to do things. And thank y'all so much for being here. Oh my gosh, it started like moving. Okay. Thank y'all so much for being here. This was the longest one that we've had. But we definitely got a lot of nice little like laughs and stuff in this time. Remember, in a world of Grizzies being Eddie P, do not live your life in a way that you end up being somebody else's footnote. On that note, we'll see y'all next week. Same time, same place. Bye.